Hello everybody, my name is Craig Bennett and I'm the founder and owner of Tech Reviews Nope. And today we are going to get into Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel is a hacking tool that is used for both the good and bad side. And in this video, what I'm going to be covering is more of the password cracking abilities with Cain and Abel, but we're also going to get into some of the other abilities within this. So real quick before I forget, this is an educational video. If you use any information in this for legal or moral reasons, that's purely on your head. But as far as things goes, this tool is used for both good and bad side. It is a tool and that's all it is. Now as far as what you use it for is really up to you. And what abilities does Cain and Abel have? It has the ability for art poisoning. It has the ability for hacking wireless when combined with air PCAP. It has abilities for password crackers, man-in-the-middle attacks, stuff like that. Now, as far as password crackers, this will get into both dictionary passwords, brute force attacks, and as far as the network sniffers and man-in-the-middle attacks. One thing I will tell you right now is if you really want Cain and Abel for that, I would say instead of going Cain and Abel, go to Wireshark and get that, because that's where that succeeds in. They both have their strengths and weaknesses, but I think Wireshark is more stronger on the networking side, whereas Cain and Abel is obviously stronger in the password side, because I don't think Wireshark has that at all. But let's jump on in. So to get this, what you need to do is go to the following site. It'll be in the description. While you're in the description, check out our Patreon link and donate to us, and that way help us out. But as far as this goes, this will be in the description. Go for this bottom one, and this is for Windows users, obviously not Mac, not anything else, but the top one is meant for Windows 95 and stuff like that. It's just obviously obsolete. And I'm using Windows 10 on this, and also in a virtual machine, which I'm going to get into the passwords and stuff. We're going to be going into the Windows server, so it works pretty much after Windows NT. It's fine. Now you may run into something like this where it says block because it may contain yada yada yada, and that's because your virus protecting stuff will say this has a virus or whatever. It doesn't. This is open source, so check out the code if you want, but for the most part you will run into that problem if you have strong virus protecting stuff. Now as far as a way to solve that is check your settings for your browser. So right here it shows successful download, and all I did is uncheck both of those, and that was that. And if you're having worst case scenario, go to Edge and you can try that and try it there. For the installation purposes, just go to next, all of these, and whenever it's done, finish, and you'll need to install this to fully get use out of it. If you can't, then you can't. It's like this case, it's not a huge deal. So from here, what you need to do is go and start Cain and Abel. See if we can find it under Cain. And let's pin that to, sorry, I meant pin that to taskbar. And what we want to do is start that as administrator, and that way we can get maximum use out of this. And you may get this, so check your firewall. I'm not going to get too heavy into the networking portion, so I'm not too concerned with this, but this is something to keep in mind. keep in mind some of this is going to be blocked for good reason, as far as MAC addresses and stuff like that. And I'll explain a little bit more when we get into that in a second or two. So real quick, you might see this and it might look confusing. And you might say, this doesn't look like Tron. And no, most hacking programs don't. In fact, let's just say about all hacking programs look something like this. And that's very important to note. Now, as far as that goes, what you see here is decoders, networks, sniffers, crackers, trace routes, CCDU, wireless, and so on. What we're going to focus on for this video is really sniffer and cracker. One thing I would tell you is some of these things are completely useless. And why? Well, I'll say that. Basically, the reason why it's completely useless is something like CCDU is Cisco configure, download, and upload everything. Cisco grade equipment is business, and we're not talking about a doctor's office. We're talking about a hospital. We're talking about a actual good-sized business, and you ain't gonna have that at home, and you're not gonna have that in small business. If you get to that grade, you already know a lot of this stuff. So that's the reason why I'm skipping a lot of this. And some of this, it's obsolete, like dial-up, Internet Explorer, so on. There's a lot of it that is obsolete today that wasn't in the past. Keep in mind, this is an older program, but it is a well-working program. So let's jump on into this, and what we want to do is go into Sniffer, go to Configure, and select the wireless adapter, and go ahead and select this button right here, and then scan MAC addresses. And this will populate this table, and keep in mind that this will give you an idea of what is what, but you got to do this in order to do the poisoning. So next thing is next, I want to poison that, which is my phone. That's right next to me. And what you want to do is go press the plus sign after you click that. Select your wireless router, which starts with a or which ends with a 0.1 or 0.0, and I want to poison the which one was it? 9. I want to poison 0.9. I think that's my phone. And from here, what we need to do is select the radiation sign to start the poisoning. So it starts the poisoning, and private allow access. Again, it's firewall stuff. And I'll give that a second or two. And you should see something like this. Not so much up here, but the package in, package out, and a lot of this is going to be blocked out for obvious reasons. For MAC addresses, why? Well, each device in the world should have its own unique MAC address. It is possible to spoof MAC addresses software-wise, but basically what happens is cops and stuff, they will use the MAC address to figure out who done what, or at least get a good idea. And with this, you will be able to actually go and pin crimes on certain individuals. Now, as far as things goes, I'm going to be trying to see if I can get some passwords to show up, fake passwords if I can. And this will show you how vulnerable systems are. Keep in mind my expertise and stuff. So this will tell you, even with a high expertise, it is very easy to break into a system and see a bunch of passwords, especially if you don't have things encrypted. That's a very, very important thing. Now, someone did ask this. They asked about are you able to use it to look for other IP addresses in games and PCs? The answer is kinda. In what I mean by kinda is you can see the IP address, the destination IP address, but that doesn't tell you much, and that's a very important note. But that's why I say Wireshark's better, because you can actually filter. It's a huge critical thing to filter, and I'll get into the password hacking in a second. So as far as this goes, this will give you an idea of the sniffing, and it'll say who's talking to who, what type of packages are going across, and stuff like that. But with Wireshark, you can take an extra step and do filtering, and that's a very important thing in itself. Now, as far as the passwords go, let's go into that real quick, and this is going to be like major things are going to be blocked out here. So as far as this goes, how exactly does this work? It tells you a timestamp, where the HTTP is going, a client that requested it, the username, the password that was used, and also it can give you the link, the exact link to the site. So that's pretty important in itself. And if we go into like mail services, we can actually see it there. This is going to be majorly blocked out in itself, but you can get the username and password there, and see all that. And you can get a little bit more information to here. That's pretty much it. Again, I prefer, if you're going to do something like this, I prefer to do it on Wireshark because of filtering. But it's up to you which one you want to do. Now, one thing I will tell you is if you're trying to figure out IP addresses of people you're playing with on Xbox or PlayStation, I'm not really sure if it works on PlayStation, but you can actually poison the Xbox, and this will tell you who you're playing with. And this is why that Steam question won't work, because what they're asking is for PC stuff, and the problem with using PC games and stuff like that is simply that the PC games there's no way to filter out the stuff that accurately, and this is really meant for the program is meant more for passwords and getting passwords, either cracking it or getting passwords. And that's a very, very important thing in itself, because if you're trying to figure out someone's IP address, that's where other programs come into play, and that's where knowing how other programs and the limitations of certain programs come into play. So again, Wireshark is going to be the answer for that. Now, as far as this next part, I'll be using a junk operating system in order to do this, so I don't have to filter out anything, and I can show you passwords and stuff, since I don't use these passwords in real life. But as far as that goes, one of the questions I'm going to answer right now is this one. I think they're asking how can you hack passwords for websites. You can't, unless if you're able to get the password onto your computer. And that's one thing to keep in mind, is everything that you're looking at is a file. Like this is basically a file, and some things are even grabbed from other files. There's calls for other files to say, hey, show me this thumbnail, or show me this, show me that. And that's very important to note, because if you're able to get the files, the proper file, onto your computer, you can actually be able to crack the password. Aside from that, there's not too many ways to crack a password using a software like this. So as far as that goes, let's jump on in, and you go to Cracker, and what we're going to do is crack into another Windows account. We're trying to get another Windows account to get its password so we can break into it. So say, for example, if you got a family member and you want to know what their password is so you can see what files they have or whatever, this will help you out majorly. Show. So what we can do is go to Cracker, click that plus sign, and import hash from local system. Now, as far as if you were to do the online stuff, then you'll use the database or the text file. And keep in mind, you would select on the proper one, but for this one right here, I'm going to be using for the Windows stuff. So let's click next, and it's going to populate a table with users. So it has a username and if it has a password. Keep in mind, this is a junk operating system. This is not showing real passwords, not showing real stuff. This is just a lab. So as far as that goes, I'm going to be using weak passwords to show you. So as far as that goes, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be using this because all these others obviously don't have passwords. So what I'm going to do, because let's say I don't know the password, I'm going to use a dictionary to start with. What's a dictionary attack? If we go to that, you won't see that. What you will see is something like this. If you go to add to list and go to word list, you will see a text file. You can add text files into here or add on to this text file, but basically these are called dictionaries. I'm going to go to the very last one because this is an actual the password. What's going to happen is it will go to each and every single line and say, does the password match of this? No. Does the password match of this? No. And it'll keep going on until it finds a match or when it's done. From there, it will tell you if the password's that or not. Keep in mind, these are weak passwords. To show you an example, let's show you. These are actual passwords people use. If you see this and you're using one of these, change your password. In fact, best way, if you're making a password and you want to make it complicated, the best way to make a password is make sure it has all of the above: capital and lowercase, numbers and symbols. If you have all above, plus you have 8 or more characters, then it'll make it a lot tougher. You can make it days of cracking the password. And that's a very important thing, is and if you want to take it a step further and want to be able to remember it, make a phrase and go with that, or use a thing like 1Password, LastPass, something like that. But keep in mind, if someone breaks into that, then the thing's over, and you got to change all your passwords. So with that, but I still advise using something like a LastPass because that's a lot more easier. Mostly because it'll make the passwords for you. But keep in mind, if something happens to that and you don't know what the password is, you're kind of screwed. So with this, it'll go to each one of these and go down and see if there's a match. You could add on to this, like I said, or take away. So we're just going to do open that, tell it to do, and it's going to go through it. And as you see here, it's already almost 50% done. I mean, it's that quick. I think it's like 3,000 lines, I'm not sure. So what I'm going to do on this go around, now that we went through an unsuccessful round, is I'm going to say the password to the actual list. But as we see here, it says the attack stopped. There was no matches, so the dictionary password didn't work. Well, you go from there is brute force or cryptanalyst. I'm not going to go to cryptanalyst in this video, but because it's a little bit more advanced. But the brute force I'm going to get into. But now that we got it unsuccessful, let's do start it again. And remember, the I guess it says the thing's changed. So remember, I put the password as the very last one, so I have to go through all the dictionary passwords before it gets to the very last one. And you can see that it still is going to be a couple seconds, and we will find out that it is this password, and that's what matches. So these pretty much anything in a dictionary is considered as a weak password. So let's say that that doesn't work. What your next step is brute force, and let's say it does work. You'll see the password right there, and you can go on your way. So let's repopulate that list. And now let's try brute force. So with this, what we're going to do is set a predefined. What this is a predefined characters list. So we know the person only uses that. So therefore, we're just going to stick with that to make it quicker. But in this case, we don't know what the person uses, and we don't necessarily know the length. And so we're going to go to the longest and go, say 16. And if it's more than 16, forget it. Start that, and boom, it's going to take years. Let's throw this down. In fact, let's go and start. Let's go 5. And right here, it'll say for a 5-character limit, even with all that, it'll take maybe about 15 minutes to crack the password. Keep in mind this depends on the resources in the computer. So the better the computer, the faster it will be, the better process and everything, faster this will be. And keep in mind this is in a virtual machine, so a lot of the resources are cut into like a third. So this is like less than what the average person has, and it's still able to crack it in 15 minutes if it's a 5-character long, no matter what keys you use. What will happen with this is it'll try every single combination before it says it can't crack it. When it's unsuccessful, it'll say attack stop, and it'll just say the same thing as before. For this, we know it's 8 characters, so I'm just going to show this 8, and even with 8, we're looking at 18 years before it cracks it with brute force. Again, remember the resources, the better resources, the less time that will pass. So let's get into the last part of this. So as far as this goes, the one thing that a lot of people be interested into is the wireless passwords, how to get into it and things of this nature. And click this add, make sure you click the wireless password first. And what this will do is this will populate the list. Keep in mind, this isn't working like VMware or anything like that. So, and you could get an error because of that. But some of this, in fact, a lot of this is going to be blocked out for obvious reasons again. And what will end up happening is it will show you the passwords here. And if it doesn't know the password, then what will end up happening is you can send it over to the cracker. Keep in mind, this isn't hacking wireless access points. This is things that's already on your computer. So like this, any passwords for that, the internet explorer, that's already on a computer. Same thing with the mail and all your other stuff. It is you're not actually hacking into a access point. You're just, if it's not on the computer, the thing doesn't even recognize it. There is ways to get passwords and hack into a wireless access point, but it's much more easier to use backtrack Linux or something around to that point. Again, other programs are stronger in that than this. So understand the strengths and weaknesses of the program, and that way you don't end up getting messed over whenever you need to get a job done effectively and within a given amount of time. But anyways, as far as that goes, I know this video is probably going on long enough. The last question that I want to try to answer is the is this one. Is it safe to download again? And do you have a link to the website? Again, I do have a link down in the description for the application. Just go down the description and also check out the Patreon campaign and donate there if you want to support us. But the link is down there, and this is open source, so you can check it out to make sure it doesn't have viruses. And it is safe to download and install it. But at the same time, the one thing to keep in mind is your virus protection and everything else will go all haywire, because what will end up happening is the virus protection and everything, it sees it as a virus. It will see it as what it is, trying to see the passwords, trying to get into the network and stuff like that. And that is effectively what virus does, or most of them do. And it doesn't know that you're actually using this as a tool, or an average person isn't. In fact, even people in security sometimes don't, because social engineering is much easier. So anyways, as far as that goes, if you do have any questions, feel free to leave them down there in the comment section. I'll get to it as quickly as possible. Make sure I can respond to your stuff, and I'll get you in a later video on how to make sure of that. But if you like this, go and leave a like, subscribe, share, and feel free to check out our Patreon campaign and donate to us. If you don't like this for whatever reason, go and leave a dislike, but tell me why so I can fix it in future videos. Again, this has been Craig Bennett, founder of Tech Views Nope, and hope you have a great day.